안녕하십니까. 저희는 전진이,
원지의
입니다. 발표 시작하기 앞서 질문 하나를 여쭙고 싶은데요. 여러분은 가족을 위해서라면 어디까지 희생하실 수 있습니까? How far would you be willing to sacrifice for your family? 영화 국제시장은 이 질문에 대해 조용하지만 깊은 울림으로 대답하는 작품입니다. 이 영화는 한국전쟁, 독일 파견 광부, 베트남전 등 실제 역사적 사건 속에서 살아가는 한 평범한 남자, 윤덕수의 시선을 따라가며 책임과 사랑, 그리고 세대 간의 이해를 이야기합니다. 그럼 발표에 앞서 영화의 전체적인 분위기를 느낄 수 있는 예고편을 먼저 함께 보시겠습니다.
정자야, 니 내 어릴 적 꿈이 뭐였는지 아나?
뭐였는데요?
우리 친구 그러면 이번에 서울대 합격했거든. 서울대 하늘에서 또 떨어져야 안 되겠다. 바로 광고 모주. 뭐 가난했겠죠. 그래서 싹 썩어가지고 보면 싹 한국으로 교체시키고. 국내 사람들 행위는 못한 정도가 국내에서 얼마나 좋고 학교 가지 못하고 1년 360을 몇 번씩 1만 원 받고. 아버지, 내 약속 잘 지켰지. 이만하면 내 잘 살았지. 근데 너 진짜 힘들었거든.
네, 감사합니다. 지금 보신 예고편을 바탕으로 지금부터 영화 국제시장의 내용을 요약해 소개해드리도록 하겠습니다. 이 영화는 현재 시점에서 시작이 됩니다. 덕수의 자녀들이 가족 여행을 떠나면서 그는 손주들을 돌보게 됩니다. 나이가 들어 여전히 국제시장에서 가족 가게를 지키고 있는 덕수의 가게입니다. 덕수 앞에 사람들이 찾아와 건물을 팔라고 압박하지만 그는 분노하며 단호하게 거절합니다. 그 신랑이 이후 손녀의 손을 잡고 시장을 걷던 중 잠시 손을 놓칠 뻔한 순간을 계기로 이야기는 그의 과거로 돌아갑니다. 1950년 한국 전쟁 당시 덕수는 북한의 행남에서 피난을 가던 중 아버지와 어린 동생 막순이와 헤어지게 됩니다. 이후 그는 부산에 있는 이모의 집에서 지내게 됩니다. 그러던 중 그는 자신의 꿈을 위해 어떤 길을 선택할 기회가 생기지만 동생이 공부를 너무 잘해 서울대에 진학할 수 있음에도 불구하고 집안 형편 때문에 결국 덕수는 자신의 미래보다 동생의 꿈을 먼저 선택하게 되고 친구 달구와 함께 서독으로 떠나 한광 광부로 일하게 됩니다. 하지만 덕수가 독일에서 매일 힘든 나날만 보낸 것은 아닙니다. 왜냐하면 그곳에서 아주 예쁜 한국인 간호사 영자를 만났기 때문인데요. 그 둘은 서로에게 위로와 희망이 되어주며 결국 사랑에 빠지게 됩니다. 이 덕수의 삶은 하루도 편한 날이 없습니다. 일하던 덕수가 어느 날 큰 광선 사고를 겪으며 죽을 뻔한 위기를 맞았지만 간호사인 영자 곁에서 회복을 하고 한국으로 돌아오게 됩니다. 이 시기에 덕수가 영자에게 같이 한국에 돌아가서 같이 살지 않겠냐고 했지만 자신이 덕수의 아이를 힘신했다는 사실을 알고 그를 찾아 새로운 가정을 꾸리게 되었습니다. 1970년대에 덕수는 가족을 부양하고 이모의 가게를 지키기 위해 많은 돈이 든다고 생각을 하여 이를 위해 그는 베트남 전쟁에 민간인 계약직으로 참여하기로 결정합니다. 전쟁터에서 힘든 시간을 보내던 덕수는 베트남 공격을 피해 후퇴하던 중 다리에 부상을 입게 됩니다. 부상을 입은 채 덕수는 집에 돌아오고 그렇게 시간이 흘러 1983년 덕수는 텔레비전에서 KBS의 특별 프로그램 이상가족을 찾습니다를 보게 됩니다. 이 방송을 통해 그는 어린 시절 흥남 철수 당시에 헤어졌던 가족들이 생각이 나 오랜 세월 헤어진 가족들을 만나고 싶었던 덕수는 희망을 안고 부산에서 서울로 향해 이상가족을 찾습니다에 직접 출연하게 됩니다. 그리고 마침내 그는 어린 시절 흥남에서 헤어졌던 여동생과 극적으로 재회하게 되며 그 여동생은 그동안 미국 가정에 입양되어 자라왔다는 사실도 알게 됩니다. 그렇게 덕수의 어머니는 잃어버렸던 딸을 만나고 1년 뒤 돌아가셨고 영화는 다시 현재로 돌아와 어머니의 제사를 지낸 후 가족들이 이야기를 나누고 있을 때 덕수가 혼자 방에서 아버지를 그리워하며 흐느끼며 우는 모습을 보여줍니다. 나중 그는 결국 가게를 팔기로 결심하게 되었습니다. 영화에서 그는 이렇게 말했습니다. 이제는 아마 못 오시겠지? 너무 나이가 드셔가지고.
Okay, so this film, it obviously covers vast swaths of Korea's modern and contemporary history, and it largely covers many details that I didn't know before watching this film. However, there are some historical facts that were ignored and some liberties are taken by the director. So first, one of the most glaring, I guess, things that were left out of this film were the various protests that were going on around this time because South Korea, following the Korean War, was under authoritarian regimes, and so it has a very nationalistic view, and it doesn't really address the fact that during this time there were many student protests and oppressive governments. At one point in the film, the protagonist and his wife are arguing, and then they stop to go and salute for the national anthem, which doesn't really address the fact that there were authoritarian regimes and some people were getting killed. So that would, even though that would have been a very pressing issue for the people living during this time. Another inaccuracy would be that during Korean soldiers' time in Vietnam, there were over 320,000 Korean soldiers who were deployed in the Vietnam War. However, during this time, they committed many atrocities and mass murders, and so it's not really addressed because in one of the characters, Doksu's best friend, he ends up marrying a Vietnamese woman he meets while he's deployed in Vietnam. However, during the Vietnamese War, some South Korean soldiers raped many women, and so there are these mixed race people in Vietnam who are living right now. They're called the Lai Dai Han, or children as a result of sexual assault. And South Korea's government still faces continued allegations of massacre, mass murder, and war atrocities committed by soldiers, and it's something that's a continued point of contention between the Vietnamese and South Korean governments. Throughout the film, there are also some cameos from historical figures and important people. So one example would be Hyundai founder, Chung Joo-hyung, who is portrayed in a very positive light, even though his company, Hyundai, is known for its corporate control and its place as a 주체 in the Korean economy. Next, we also have the figure of Andre Kim, who is a fashion designer. His exploration and disruption of traditional gender roles is downplayed for jokes. It is not really addressed as a serious matter within the film. There's also the figure of the singer Nam Doo, who was deployed to Vietnam during this time, and then the characters interact with him as he tries to show off his new song.
The director's message and its impact. The director has the movie take place in the film in a marketplace, a place where ordinary people thrive, and the backdrop is international market where everything except the people are imported goods. So this goes to the point that Korea's economic successes were built on the struggles and sacrifices made by citizens and the ordinary people. The director made a point of focusing things on the things that ordinary people endured so that Korea could prosper today, rather than focusing on the political contributions, and as he recognized the importance of doing so. The director wanted to show appreciation for his father and grandfather's generation. So the theme fatherhood in the film was inspired by the fact that upon his father's passing, he was unable to thank him for all the things that he endured. He also said that his father's life of sacrifice for this family, he wanted to show that the hardships of family and the ordinary people who lived through the modern and contemporary Korean history. So there are 3 key messages that can be taken from the film Ode to My Father. The first one is gratitude and remembrance. As we know, the director repeatedly explained that the film was meant as a thank you for his father's generation, those who endured the Korean War, refuge hardship, and overseas migration. He wanted younger Koreans to understand what their parents and grandparents endured so that their country could prosper. The central message is recognizing sacrifices made by previous generations, which would be our great-grandparents. It encourages viewers to reflect their own families, especially the quiet struggles that parents rarely verbalize. The second important message in the film is the cost of progress. We know that South Korea's rapid modernization today, from taking the film, came at an immense human cost. The film suggests that comfort and joy today is built on personal loss, resilience, and endurance from the past. And this can be seen as current-day Toksu interacts with his family and grandchildren. In the film, he becomes a part of a real historical wave of Koreans sent overseas in the 1960s. This was a crucial step to South Korea's national economic development, but this came at an enormous personal cost. We can see that in the film as Toksu endured brutal mining conditions and almost faced death in a mining accident. He also faced a lot of poor living conditions and homesickness in his time in Vietnam as well. And this highlights the silent sacrifices made by our older generations. He sacrificed his youth, safety, and emotional well-being so that his wages and remedies could help Korea grow at a national level and so that he could support his family at a personal level. This illustrates how national progress, again, was built on physical labor, emotional suffering, and sacrifices made by ordinary people, showing that Korea's later economic successes weren't given or free, it was paid with real human hardship. And the final important message in the film is family as the anchor of life. Throughout the film, it can be seen that a lot of his choices are made by, it revolves around family. An example is his decision to go to Vietnam, even almost facing death in Germany as a minor. He still decided to go to Vietnam despite the war going on at the time so that he could further support his family and so that he could fund his sister's wedding. We can see that Toksu's choices always revolve around his family and that the film emphasizes that love and responsibility not heroism, is what defines a meaningful life. So this film really stood out to me because it helped me realize that our grandparents and older generations endured so much so that we could be happy today. In this movie, as the main character is interacting with his family in current time, it can be seen that none of his family members take into account of the things that he endured in his youth. So it really helped me realize the importance of expressing gratitude towards our parents and older generations for the hardships that they went through and the quiet struggles that they rarely verbalize.
So this film is relevant to me personally in my own family history in a pretty significant way. So my grandfather on my paternal side and then my grandmother on my maternal side, they are both, their families are both from North Korea. My grandfather, when he was really young, he fled North Korea, and so I related a lot to Toksu's story. Like Toksu, my grandfather, he talked about his sister who he never met again, and so I think that was very, it was very relevant to my own family history. I think about this reunification and that centering on the family, and it was nice to learn more about what my grandfather and what their generation went through.
First of all, this movie has a strong personal connection to me. I grew up in Busan and born in Busan. Since the main setting of this film is also Busan, it felt especially familiar and relatable while watching it. Additionally, through Toksu's sacrifice of his personal life for the sake of his family, I was reminded of my Appa, who worked hard in our foreign country to support our family. This movie made me realize how great and heavy their sacrifices truly are.
So there are 4 key points to how this can be applied to society today and how it's relevant to society. The first one is, again, recognizing historical sacrifices. So yes, this movie highlights a lot of how the entire generation's suffering contributed to Korea's economic success today. This encourages society to respect and remember its history. This is relevant to society because understanding sacrifices of past generations help people appreciate the foundation of their country's current stability and prosperity today. When society remembers these sacrifices, it builds respect, gratitude, and cultural continuity between generations. The second important key thing that can be applied to society today is understanding the human cost of economic growth. Modern success is often high sacrifices made by ordinary people, and this film emphasizes how national development relies on the workers, migrants, and soldiers and families who paid at a personal price. So by showing these dangerous loss and emotional tolls by workers like Toksu, the film reminds society that development should be balanced with fairness, safety, and a more humane treatment for its workers. This encourages a more ethical economic policies. The third relevance to society, which can be taken today, is highlighting the immigrant worker experience. So this film does bring to attention a lot of the labor issues that the main character went through, and this still remains a major issue worldwide today. And by portraying the struggles of Korean workers abroad, the film helps society recognize the challenges that migrants still face today: discrimination, isolation, and risk. This awareness can influence public attitudes and policies, promoting empathy and support for immigrant communities. And the final relevance to society that can be taken from this film is encouraging cultural memory and intergenerational dialogue. So this film helps younger generations like us understand older generations, which reduces cultural gaps and encourages empathy within society. Society is stronger as a whole, and it's stronger when different generations understand each other. So this film encourages younger people to learn about the older generation's experiences, and this reduces misunderstandings and builds social unity. This also helps maintain and keep important cultural memories so that they stay alive and they're not lost.
This is the end.